Good day, teachers. Today I'm going to show you how to use your online resources for Advanced Placement Social Studies. I'll be using AP US History as the example, but it doesn't matter which AP History course you're exploring. They all work in a similar way. My name's Thomas Legale, and I'm the National Advanced Placement Specialist. Let's go over the agenda. The first thing we'll cover is class dashboard exploration. Next, we'll do a single chapter overview, as all chapters work the same way. Next, we'll talk about the SmartBook. What is it, and how do you assign it? And we'll end with creating a test, either print or digital. Now, everything we explore today is accessible from my.mheducation.com. Again, that's my.mheducation.com. Let's log in. So I'm going to log into the National Demo account. Here we go. So here we are inside the National Demo account. If you'd like to explore some other AP offerings, you can get a username and password from your local sales representative. So we'll scroll down the page and you can see that this account has every AP, honors, and electives course that we offer at McGraw-Hill. Awesome. So let's go up here, since this is for social studies, and we're going to click into AP US History by Davidson, Experience History. Now, just so you know, if this is not the course that you purchased, you can follow along with these steps because all of our AP courses work in a similar way. Let's move on. I'm going to click Launch. And the first thing I want to talk about is that this is the course dashboard. No matter what course you're in, this is what we consider the course dashboard. And if you explore down on this page just a little bit, you'll see the ebook is visible. You'll see that the AP correlations, so this ties back to the College Board's website to talk you through the expectations and exam information from the College Board. This right here is a complete teacher manual. It is the entire teacher manual in a PDF. Now, I always share with teachers that there's another place where you can get a single chapter by chapter version of the teacher manual, so you're not having to scroll through hundreds of pages. Here's a quick start digital guide, which is kind of what I'm doing now, but if you need a refresher, you can click here. And these two pieces are correlations of our book to the most current College Board correlations or framework. And you can open them up and they are PDFs that you can look at. Now, along the side here are some buttons that you may want to explore. I always tell teachers when they first set up their account that they should go to Gradebook. Now, I'll go here, but I won't go inside and set it up. When you click Gradebook, it asks you to set it up for different weights for different assignments, test, quiz, daily, reading, etc. So that's the very first place you're going to want to go. Calendar will show you assignments that you've assigned digitally. Assignments is where we can give assignments, okay, and we'll definitely go in there later. The roster is all your students, okay, and so if you're going to add students, you would go to roster and you would click edit student roster and add them to your class. Another way that you can add students to your class is by using this code right here and having students go to my.mheducation.com and use that code when they log into the class, and it will put them into this course for you. Okay? Reports is when students do assignments within the course, and everything's exportable as an Excel document. And down here is the test generator, but we'll look at that at the very end. So I always use the dashboard button as kind of a level set. If I'm lost or don't know where I am within the program, if you push the dashboard, it's kind of like a home button. So now let's look at a single chapter together. So you want to click here, the arrow, click the arrow by the words browse your course. And then I always suggest to teachers to click the arrow next to AP Core. Okay? And now if you scroll down, you can see every chapter for the book. Let's go ahead and pick chapter 10. Now what we're going to do is walk through a single chapter page. What I always explain to teachers is that we're trying to understand the visual vocabulary of a single chapter, because once you understand the visual vocabulary of this chapter page, you all of a sudden understand the visual vocabulary of your entire program. So here we are on chapter 10. The first thing I suggest to teachers is that you click this Show Chapter Info, and you'll see that it opens up a series of tabs across the top. So this is a chapter overview. This is some teaching the chapter hints. This is suggested assignments, which we will have given you. These are benchmarks, and if you click them, they open up. These are benchmarks that are tied to the most current College Board framework. And finally, we have pacing. Now, pacing is based on a 50-minute class. So if you teach an hour-and-a-half class, then you would divide this pacing in half. So we can click this Hide Chapter Info and make these tabs go away. As we go down the page, the arrows on the right are where you're going to want to click. So if you click this arrow here, it shows you the student resources. So here's the ebook. The ebook, I will let you know, teachers, is always available to every kid in their account, no matter what you do. So if you give no digital assignments, the ebook is always present in their account. Right, here's the Smart Book, and we'll definitely go into that later. It's a really powerful formative assessment reading experience. Let's continue down with these arrows on the right. Chapter assignments. So these are all the assignments and projects and things that we give you in your course. So across the top here are all the test banks. Now you certainly could click assign and it would just give the kids all the questions that are in the test bank. But we're going to learn later how to create your own test drawing from questions within these test banks. Here's a PowerPoint. Here's let's see, multiple activities, okay? This is a podcast, a map activity, etc. Now, one thing I like to share is if you click on a PowerPoint, it opens up a PowerPoint in kind of a viewer, kind of a PowerPoint replicator, and I often, when talking to teachers, really suggest to them that they download this file and save it. You want to download this file and save it on your desktop as the Chapter 10 PowerPoint, because then you'll always have it and not have to come back to the program to get it. If you'll notice here it says download this file, or you can click this down arrow here and download this, and like I said, it saves as a true PowerPoint. Okay, let's move on. Going down the page, here's primary and secondary source activities. Now, one thing I could tell you, teachers, is you can see right here that these are PDFs, right? So if we click on one, it opens up, and it's a true PDF activity. Now, this one's just 2 pages long. There's a map that we have to reference, and then some questions that reference back to that map. Now, you can do a couple of things. You can download it and save it in a folder on your desktop as a Chapter 10 map activity, or you can assign it. So if you click this assign button here and pick the dates and times, the number of points possible, okay, minor grade, daily grade, test grade, etc., and you can assign it, and it will show up in the kids' accounts. Now, another thing I like to point out to people, sorry, here's the PowerPoint again. One thing I like to point out to people is that if you have something that you just want to give to the kids and really need no sort of grading passed back, you can just add things to the student's page. Now, one thing I think is very important for you to understand is that that just gives them access to it. You are going to get no feedback whether the kid interacted with that particular assignment. I think a really good place for this add to student page feature is for the PowerPoint. So after you've given the PowerPoint in class, if you had kids who are absent or would like to look at the PowerPoint for reference material, you can come in here and click there, and now the students, all of a sudden, everyone has access to the PowerPoint. Let's move on. If you scroll down the rest of the page, here's a source library. These are the sources that are good for this chapter, okay? You'll see that there's maps, graphs, charts, images, a biography, etc. Now, these all appear to be Word documents. You can save them on your desktop, or you can assign to give them to the kids. Now, these are not activities. These are specific primary and secondary sources that you can use to enrich your kids' performance in your class. Let's scroll to the bottom arrow, teacher resources. So what you'll see here is this is where you find the individual Chapter 10 teacher manual. Now let's click on it. So instead of several hundred pages, you see this is just 6 pages long, okay? Concepts and themes, tips and timing, etc., etc., activities, classroom discussions. For some of the teacher manuals, it will have the answer to the end of chapter questions right here, multiple choice, etc. Okay, so this is a good place to get just the single chapter 10 teacher manual. Here's an image bank. It's a zip folder that's full of every image from the book. So if there's a map or chart that really is of interest to you, you have access to all those images. And then here's an answer key. Let's take a look at that. Okay, this is chapter 10 answer key to end of chapter items right here. Okay, this is in a different place than in the teacher manual. Now, one thing I like to point out to you is let's try to understand this visual vocabulary. Red right here with a teacher on the front is always the teacher manual. Purple with an answer with a key on it is always the answer key. Okay, purple tends to be activities. This dark purple is always the PowerPoint, and these orange things are always the test bank. So it's really about understanding that visual vocabulary. I almost forgot to point out something at the very bottom of the page, teacher added resources. So if you have an assignment or a project that you've given for years because you love AP US History and there's an assignment that you absolutely love and do not want to get rid of, this is a place where you can click here and you can add a file from your computer, and it will give you the ability to either add it to the student's page or assign it, just like everything above. Awesome. Let's move on and talk about the Smart Book. So here I've scrolled to the top of the Chapter 10 page again, and here under Student Resources is the Smart Book. I'm going to click into it because I want to show you what the Smart Book experience is like. Now someone's already started this assignment, but we'll continue reading. Okay? So the Smart Book is highlighted in yellow for facts the kids need to focus on, and if they master a fact based on answering questions, it will change the highlighting to like a bluish green. So here we are reading through the Smart Book, okay? And we can scroll and scroll, and you see the yellow highlighting, and that's things that the kids need to know to be successful on the AP exam based on the College Board framework. Now every 9 to 15 minutes, this button down here will start to pulse. If the kids continue to read, it will start to speak to them and say, I think you've read enough. It's time to answer some questions. So we're going to just go to the questions so you can see what that experience is like. So how did the northern merchants benefit from the cotton trade? Okay, I'm just going to pick an answer, and I'm going to pick my confidence level. And teachers, just so you know, that confidence level is one of the most important components. So Smart Book, to re-highlight your book for mastery, is looking at several things: the quickness at which you have answered, the correctness of your answer, and your metacognition, or your confidence level in your answer. So I'm very high. Oops, I got it wrong. But look at here, teachers. Over here is support for the student. So if I click text, it jumps right in the book, speaking about that exact thing that was just in the question. So it's really about providing support to every student. The other thing I like, teachers, is that a kid who's very fast and works very quickly and masters things quickly could take 30 minutes to read through this chapter, but I struggle and take 45 minutes to an hour. At the end of the day, we both get 100, because it's not about quickness, it's about getting the data in your head and having that scaffolded reading experience for each kid. So let's look at the next question. A major breakthrough in transporting goods quickly, both upstream and downstream, came with the invention of the steamboat. I know that, and I got it right. Awesome. So I hope you see the power of the Smart Book. And you'll also get a report about how long they read, what questions they're getting from a classroom level down to a granular single student level. So there's really a lot of data-driven instruction that you can give there. So let's exit this. Now that you've seen the power of Smart Book, let's go and assign it. So you certainly could click the Assign button right here, but I highly suggest to teachers not to do that because it will give away every question that is in the system for Chapter 10. And for some courses like AP World, it can be an hour and a half, 60 to 90 questions for each chapter, and it's a little daunting and can kind of shut some kids down. So I want to show you a way to assign the Smart Book that gives you a little more power, that you can kind of control how many questions and how long the reading experience will be. So what you'll do to assign SmartBook in a more powerful, robust way is click Assignments over here on the left. You'll then click Add Assignment, and you'll click SmartBook 2.0. Now I do have to tell you, some courses do not have SmartBook 2.0. We're kind of beholden to higher ed, and they're slowly rolling out SmartBook 2.0. It's really about some accessibility issues, making the contrast of the font higher, etc. And so no one's at a disadvantage if they don't have SmartBook 2.0, but it's as the higher ed division rolls them out, we're pushing them out to teachers. So you'll click on SmartBook 2.0 if you have it. We'll click New Assignment and Continue. Okay, we'll pick Chapter 10 here and Continue. And now here's Chapter 10, and I need to talk to you about a couple of things, teachers. So you'll see that this chapter takes an average of 29 to 43 minutes. That's not terrible. And this shows you over here on the right how many questions for each section of the chapter. Now you have some power here. You can either assign the entire chapter and reduce the amount of questions evenly throughout the chapter by clicking over here, and you'll see the time goes down. If you click this toggle up and down, you can lower the amount of questions for the entire chapter. But what's happening is it's assigning the entire chapter 10 and reducing just a few questions from each chapter. Now another way you could do is you can actually remove whole sections of the chapter and just do these first two sections for tonight's reading, and then do a separate part for the next night's reading. So that's really dosing it out. Now you'll see here these first two sections only are asking 16 to 23 minutes. But it's really up to you. If you want to push out the entire chapter, you can do that, and you can reduce some of the questions evenly throughout the entire chapter by using this slider bar over here on the right, or you can remove whole sections of the reading assignment this way by unclicking these. So I'm going to actually assign the entire chapter, but I'm just going to lower the amount of questions. 28 to 41 minutes sounds about right to me. We're going to continue. We're then going to name the assignment at the top of the page. So Chapter 10, Reading, Smart Book Assignment. Okay. And you can add instructions if you would like, teachers. You'll pick dates and times. So it's already past this time. We will say that it's due on Monday at 11:59. Visible and hidden. Now, I need to speak very candidly with you here. I think it's so important, this visible and hidden switch. Okay, so what that for me as a teacher is about is that you can do today's reading assignment on Chapter 10, but then do Chapter 11, 12, and 13, but make them hidden so they don't show up in the students' accounts. And that's because you have time today on today's conference period to really work ahead. And then as those chapters approach, you can go in and make them visible. Now I always suggest graded, points possible 100. You'll pick what type of grade this is, daily, minor, major, reading, etc. Now you see the share with Google Classroom here. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then you assign. Okay, and now they have us Chapter 10 Smart Book Assignment. Now, if you had made this hidden, where you need to go, teachers, is these three dots over here. We call it a kebab menu, like a shish kebab. And you click on it, and you could go here and edit it and make it visible. Okay, so these three kebabs over here really help you with this individual assignment. You can view the scores, you can copy it to other classes here, share it with your Google Classroom, or just completely delete it if you want. But like I said, if you had made this assignment hidden, you would go right here to the kebab, you would go into edit, let's show you, and you would toggle back to visible, and then you would save it. And now the kids would see it in their account. Awesome. Okay, now I want to show you where you can see that assignment. So there's a couple places. If you go to your dashboard here, you'll see that that reading assignment is there. I'd already done one in this account, so it's showing up as well. So this is where you'll see that assignment. Or you can go, and this is the type of way that I like to view assignments, is on the calendar. So this lays out things in a calendar view. So you see these assignments here, either the week or an entire month view. You can see different assignments. Now this is a demo account, so you can see people have done other assignments on other days. So that's really the power of the SmartBook. Let's move on and talk about creating a test, either paper pencil or digitally. So now we're going to create a test together. Now a test is an assessment, so we're going to click the word assessments. Next, you'll see all the test banks here, but that's not where you want to go in. You want to go into new assessment, and we're going to name it, and we're going to call it Chapter 10 Quiz AP US History. Create assessment. Now you're going to be drawing from our test banks. So we're going to click Add Question from Question Banks. Now, here, under this toggle, you have access to all the test banks that exist for AP US History. So let's click there, and you can see all these different styles of questions. Okay, and there's a lot of them, right? Now, I like to point out one thing, okay? So here in the middle, and I believe this pertains to all AP Social Studies courses, there are some test banks that are just content assessment. So the rigor level of those, or depth of knowledge level, is lower on those. But if you scroll down, you'll see AP assessments. Now those are specific test banks that tie to the AP College Board framework, and those questions are AP style and AP rigor. So we're just doing kind of a content assessment because it's a Chapter 10 quiz to maybe see if they understand or did the reading. So we will pick Davidson 9th edition Chapter 10 content assessment. So you'll notice now that there are 20 questions on this page. If we click here, there's additional 20 questions, and then 10 more questions on this last tab. So there's a total of 50 questions that you have the ability to draw from. So let's go back to page 1. So the first thing I'd like to point out is if you hover over a question, it will show you the prompt, right? But none of the multiple choice answers. If you'd like to see the entire question, you click the shish kebab menu, you click preview, and now it shows you the entire question. So, like I said again, if you hover, it shows you the prompt of the question, and if you need to see the entire question, you click the shish kebab, and it will show you all the answers. So, I like question 1, and I like question 3, and I like question 5. Now, and this is important, and I've found teachers in training sometimes miss this step, you do need to click the Add button, Add, and now you'll see all of a sudden over here on the right is your Chapter 10 quiz. You'll never mess with the master question bank that we've provided. You always are drawing from them and creating your own quiz over here on the right. Let's look at another page, and we'll click here, and we'll click Add. Awesome. So we have 4 questions, but I want to add an additional question. So you'll see here, plus question, click here, create new question, and right here at the top is all the different styles of question that you can add to this quiz, okay? Now keep in mind, some of these question styles are for giving tests digitally, okay? So you just want to keep that in mind. Let's add an essay question, okay? So now I type, why is AP US History the best? Okay, and you can change some things here, number of characters, number of words, okay? You could upload an example file, give them some hints, etc. But we're just going to save this as a simple essay question. Save. Okay, and now there are 4 questions plus my essay question. One thing I'll show you is that you can move questions in and around into a different order, okay, if you'd like to. Another thing I'd like to point out is if you were giving a semester exam, you can draw questions from your test banks that you've given before, okay, in the past, and you can add them to this quiz, okay? That's all you have to do is change the question bank. Let's see. Let's see. To create a semester exam, you'd want to draw from questions from a past test that you've given. So you'll go here to questions, and it's not wanting to stay stuck for me, and draw questions from an assessment, okay? And here you're going to click My Assessments. And now you're drawing on all the tests or quizzes that you've already given. Now this is a demo account, so it has a lot of different quizzes in here. But you could drag 2 questions from this test, 2 questions from this test, 2 questions from this test, and create really a truly semester exam that the students had seen before. Let's move on. So one thing I want to tell you is that creating a test for digital and creating a printed test are exactly the same procedure. If you were going to give this as just a print test, you would save exit now, and I would show you how to print it. But we're going to act like we were giving this question or this quiz digitally. So we're going to continue. And on this page is where you get to pick some things for the student's digital experience. So at the top are instructions, okay? Make sure you have good internet. Don't use the browser's back and forth button. Here in the middle are tools that you can give the kids to use. Now some of these are more pertinent or apply to science courses and may not apply to AP US History or a social studies course. And here at the bottom is some other digital display options. If you were going to give this test or quiz digitally, I always suggest randomize the question order. I always suggest that to help cut down on cheating in the room. So every student in the room will have the same questions. They will just be in a different order. So now we'll save and exit, okay? So now to see this test and to either assign it digitally or to print it out paper pencil, we'll go into My Assessments. And now here at the top of the page is this quiz that I just created. Now to assign it digitally, we go to our famous kebab menu and we click Assign. You'll pick the dates and the times, etc., and you'll assign it. Now I always say to teachers, if you have a quiz and it's created here, you can say to the kids, hey everyone, read your notes for the first couple minutes, and while they're doing that, you can just jump in here and click Assign. And when they put their notes away, you say open your account, the test is now visible, right? Let's go ahead and print this quiz. So we'll click the print button, and now you have some decisions to make. So you can change the font, you can change the font size. I always pick Arial because it's scientifically proven to be the most legible and understandable font. Now we have some essay questions, so we'll add the write-on lines. We'll also add the letter choices. Printing teacher instructions, you can randomize and print several different versions of the same exam. And here at the bottom is print answer key, either with the questions and answers, or I'd like the second choice, print just the answers by themselves. And now generate PDF. And now here we go. If you'll look in this folder, there are 2 PDFs, teachers. The first one is the answers, but we'll look at the actual assessment first. So we open it up, and you guys can see that this is the questions that we have, and the last one is this essay question with the write-on lines. Okay, and the next thing that we'll take a look at, let me get rid of this one, is the answer key. And you'll see since we said without the questions, it literally lists the answers one by one, and then of course with an essay question, answers will vary. Awesome. So let's take a look again at the steps that it took to create a test. I'll just do it really quickly. So we do assessment, we click new assessment, we give it a name of quiz chapter 11, create assessment. Remember you're drawing the questions from the question bank, so we click answer bank, and then we go down here and we pick what style of question we want, where we want to draw our questions from, okay? AP style this time. Let's do more rigorous questions, okay? And then we pick this question, question 13, 14, and 15. Remember, you have to click add. We'll go to the next page. Here are several essay questions. Let's take a look at those. So here's a preview. Okay, use your knowledge of the following and briefly describe. See, this is more AP rigor, so I like that question. We're going to add it, and we have to click the add button. And now here's a 4-question quiz. If we're just going to give it paper pencil, remember we save and exit. Continue would give us some digital options. We'll just do this one paper pencil. So we'll save and exit. We'll go to My Assessments, and at the top of the page is this quiz. The kebab menu on the right, we can assign, or we can print right here. Make your selections, pick your answer key option, and generate the PDF. That was easy. Let's move on to some final things that I want to share. So I'm going to close out today's training with just a few tips to end our day together. So we've spoken about Google Classroom just a little bit. You've seen the button or add to Google Classroom in a couple of places. Mine's a demo account and is kind of locked from being able to do that. But on your real teacher account, you can click here and there'll be a settings option, and over here on the left it will say link to Google Classroom. And it will literally jump you to a Google Classroom page where you'll put your username and password. And I don't know if you remember, but let's go to assignments and I'll show you real quick. Any of these assignments here, if you click the kebab menu, one of the options is share with Google Classroom. So if you've linked with Google Classroom, any of these assignments can be given in Google Classroom. Now, one other thing we didn't speak about was creating multiple courses. So we're going to go My Programs here at the top. We're going to go back out to your book bag filled with all the courses that you teach. So let's say you need a second period class. You would go to create a class here at the top. You would pick Davidson AP US History here, and you would name this second period, right? And third period, and so on. The other way that you can get kids logged in, if you're trying to get kids logged into your course, is using this course code right here. Now, it was inside the roster button inside the account, but it's also here. And if students go to my.mheducation.com and use this code, those students will be dropped into this class right here. And then if you had a second period and a third period, there'd be a different class code. So thank you for spending some time with us today, and I hope I've given you some helpful information. One thing I always like to share with teachers is that there's a lot of stuff here, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I always ask or implore teachers to try the 1 or 2 things that they feel comfortable with. The last thing I want to see happen is that you try multiple things, something doesn't work quite the way that you expected, and you give up and don't use the resources effectively. So I really ask that you pick the one thing and assign it and just see how it works. I really think the Smart Book assignment, that formative assessment reading experience, is one of the most powerful tools that we have. So anyway, thanks a lot, and you have a great day.